This is MyTrek for Android. So when you first open the app, you're presented with the Google map. It zooms in on your location, and you get this little location icon in the left corner. When that has a blue circle around it, that means it's waiting to find your location. When that blue circle disappears, it starts spinning, and that means it has your location. In the center top, you have a brown box. It's showing the speed you're traveling, the miles you've traveled, and in the center is a trip toggle button. If I press on that, that starts a trip. Or if I press on it while on a trip, it stops a trip. The first thing I want to do is I want to set the app up. So I go into settings from the menu button. I go to settings. And I'm presented with a bunch of options. Okay, so my username, that should be your first name. You should enter your first name in there because that's what's going to get used in your text messages that get sent from the app. Underneath that, it says pick account for login. Okay, so you want to pick, when you select that, it's going to present you with a list of your email addresses that are on your phone. Select one of those email addresses, and what it does with that, it creates a unique user ID number. Okay, and that unique user ID number is what allows MyTrek to identify you when saving your trips to the internet or creating different accounts on your phone to use with MyTrek. Okay, it doesn't use that email address for anything else but creating that number. It doesn't save your email address on the internet. It doesn't transmit that email address on the internet. Underneath that is your passenger contact menu. You have your Lyft number, your Uber number, and your Sidecar number. If you're a driver for any one of those services, there's a number that's used to call your passenger with. That number stays the same no matter what passenger you're calling. So you can enter that in, and that number can also be used to send your passenger a text message. So that's what MyTrek uses it for. It uses it for the shortcuts for the text messages and for calling your passenger. So you enter in that phone number there, and that can be used for shortcuts through the MyTrek side launcher that we'll show later. Underneath that is your SMS preset menu. This is your text message menu. The first option is to automatically send a SMS. That means that when you go to send a text message through the side launcher on MyTrek, it'll automatically send that text message right out of MyTrek. It won't go through your default text messaging app. Okay, by default, that button isn't checked and it's going to go through your text messaging app. Okay, but if you want a quicker way to send it, you can send it straight out of the MyTrek app. Okay, there's also three preset custom messages you can have for your text messages. So when you go to send a text message, all you have to do is press on that custom message and it'll fill in all the blanks on your text message for you. You just have to hit the send button. And there's three custom messages you can use for that. So that's the settings. Let's start a trip. So we press on the start trip button. It zooms in on the map. It takes a snapshot of the map. It presents you with this brown box at the bottom. In that brown box, it shows you the date and time the trip started, the GPS location, and the address. If I click on that box, I make it disappear. If I click on the marker again, it gives me a more detailed trip information box. It shows you the snapshot it took of the map. It shows you the trip duration, the distance, and all the start and stop location and time information so far. Okay, so while you're on a trip, the trip toggle button rotates. While it's rotating, that indicates you're on a trip. If I go to stop the trip, it stops rotating. The trip information box pops up again. It tells you all your information, and it shows you the image of the start position. So I can close that. Now if I want to go back and review my previous trips, I can go to the menu and I can say replay a trip. And it's going to give me a list of all the trips I've taken with my Trek in descending order. So the very top trip, or the trip that's on the very top of the list, that's your most recent trip. The very first trip will be on the very bottom. So we'll replay the first trip, and we'll see that trip I took down Highway 100 earlier in the day. You can see it's going down Highway 100, and I stop at Walmart, and it's plotting a red line on the map of my entire trip. And I pulled in the Walmart parking lot, and that's where I stopped. Now it pops up this little marker. If I press on that, it gives me my whole trip information. You can see the duration of the trip was, the distance I drove, the time I started, where I started, where I stopped, and when I stopped. And then, of course, an image of my start position on the map. Now, there's also one other feature for my Trek. I like to call it the side launcher. So I select side launcher from the menu, and it presents me with this launcher menu. Now, if I long press on these green arrows at the bottom, it turns transparent, and I'm able to move that to wherever I want on the screen. When I let go, it stays still, and it stays transparent until I press on the side launcher again. In the side launcher, there's a bunch of shortcuts. The very top button is the My Trek button. Then there's the Lyft button, which opens up the Lyft app. If I press that, the Lyft app is opened. If I press on the Uber button, the Uber Partner app is opened. If I have Sidecar loaded on my phone, I'll have a Sidecar button, and that'll open up the Sidecar driver app. And you'll notice that this side launcher stays on top of all the other windows that are underneath it, or all the other apps. And I can still move it wherever I want on the screen. If I long press it, everything behind it, I can see right through it. If I press it again, it pops back up, and I can switch between apps with the click of a button, just like that. We're back to my Trek. Now below all the driver app buttons, there's a text message button. If I press on that, that's my text message shortcut. If I want to send a text message to my Lyft passenger, I press on the Lyft button, and that button's associated with the number I entered in settings. So I press on the Lyft button, and it'll present me with a bunch of presets for the text message, or a bunch of text messages I can send. If I press a cancel button, it goes right back to the menu. If I press on Lyft again, it gives me my presets. Now at the very bottom are your custom messages. It says your custom message. If I was to enter a custom message in settings, it'll actually display what my custom message is. When I select on one of these presets, what it does is it fills in all the blanks in my text messaging app. So it's going to fill in the phone number for my Lyft phone number, and it's going to fill in the message. So all I have to do is press the send button. If I selected to automatically send that SMS message in the settings, I checked that box in settings, it won't even open up the text message app. It'll automatically send the message. I don't have to do anything but press that preset message. If I press blank message, it opens up the text messaging app, and I can type in whatever message I want to type in. So I hit cancel. And that's the same for all these options. The only difference is with this text message button at the very bottom, if I press on those presets, it always opens up the text messaging app because I have to enter in the phone number that I want to send the text message to. So I can close that text message button. If I press on the phone button, it presents me with a phone quick shortcuts for phone numbers. So if I want to call my Lyft passenger, I just press the Lyft button. Dials it just like that.
Call ended.
If I want to call my Uber passenger, I press on the Uber button. If I want to just open up the phone dialer and dial whatever phone number I want, I press on that phone button. Now I can toggle those menus on and off, just like that. And I can keep them open if I want, and I can just move that around however I want. So you can kind of build that menu out however you want it, or this launcher. Now if I want to open up Google Maps, I just press on the Google Maps button, and it'll open it up. If I want to switch back to my trek, I'm back in my trek. Go back to Google Maps so I can see where I'm going to. Go back to Lyft so I can end or start my trip. If I want to go into Waze, I just press on the Waze button. If you don't have Waze on your phone, you won't have a Waze button. But if you like Waze, you got a Waze button in your launcher. So I can close all these apps that I have open now. And now I'm back at my home screen. Now, the My Trek app stays open until you specifically select to exit it. You always have this notification in your notification menu as long as the app is running. If I press on that notification, it opens up the My Trek app. Okay? If I want to close the app and shut everything down, I actually have to go to the menu and press exit. And now My Trek is totally shut down. The notification is gone. That's it. The launcher will stay open no matter what until I select to close the launcher. This runs on its own. So I can have this launcher and not have My Trek. If I don't want to use the My Trek app, I can just I can open up the My Trek app, just like that, open up the side launcher, and then close My Trek. And that way it shuts down all the other background stuff. If you're not logging, you just want to use the launcher, you can just do that. Just like that. And that stays on top of everything as it normally would until you close it. Once I close it, it's gone. And that's it for My Trek, and that's how it works. I hope you like it.